In today's episode of As the LSU Football World Turns, Brian Kelly is suing LSU for $54 million. This thing, just when you think it's going to quiet down, the firestorm just kicks up again. It's like a new gust of wind carrying the wildfire to blaze a new field. It's really uncanny and unlike anything I can remember in my time covering LSU. I know a lot of people have said that, but it's true. I mean, this is unprecedented. When you went to bed on Monday night, you woke up Tuesday morning. What you missed was that apparently on Monday, Brian Kelly's representatives and LSU representatives had a conversation whereby LSU's representatives floated the idea of terminating Brian Kelly for cause. At which point, Brian Kelly's representatives drafted a lawsuit for $54 million, the full amount of Brian Kelly's buyout, which was filed in the 19th Judicial. Now, today is Veterans Day. Happy Veterans Day to all the veterans, of course. So courts are closed, and so a lot of people had trouble getting their hands on that lawsuit. There's some speculation as to whether or not the suit has actually been filed, if it was filed but not processed. There's a lot of different things there, but the bottom line is there's been a lawsuit written where Brian Kelly's legal team is suing the LSU Board of Supervisors for $54 million, the full amount of his buyout. So there's a lot to unpack and digest here, and I'll try to do it chronologically and filling in all the gaps to let you know how and why we are where we are and how it moves forward and what all the particulars are. So if you go back to Brian Kelly being fired on that Sunday, one of the things that LSU is contending here in this lawsuit, that Brian Kelly's, LSU is contending this. So Brian Kelly's legal team filed the lawsuit, but it's based on conversations had with LSU's representatives. And one of the things that LSU's representatives told Brian Kelly's team is that Scott Woodward did not have the authority to fire Brian Kelly. Now, we have a report today at louisianasports.net. It's free. It's there at the top of the homepage if you want to go read it. That when you look through the bylaws of the LSU Board of Supervisors, for any employee that makes over $250,000, which, of course, Brian Kelly does or did, for Scott Woodward or the athletic director to fire that employee, there would have to be board approval. And Scott Woodward on that Sunday did not get board approval, so he actually lacked the authority to fire Brian Kelly. That's what is alleged here. And we cite at louisianasports.net the exact part of the bylaws, which is bylaw section 1, article 7, subsection L, subsection 3. So it's right there in black and white if you want to read it. So by the letter of the law, or by the letter of the bylaw, Scott Woodward did not have the autonomy or the authority to fire Brian Kelly without board approval. Now, guess is, the board is just there as a ceremonial body that rubber stamps everything that is done. But in this instance, sure, legally, by the letter of the bylaw, Scott Woodward would have needed board approval. So that gives LSU now the cover to go to Brian Kelly and say, we actually never really fired you because he didn't have the autonomy to do it. And so you were never really fired. We kept paying you. And so now we're thinking about firing you for cause because you have to be notified within 7 days of the event that you're being terminated for cause. The next obvious question everyone asks is, okay, well, what is the cause? And on that Monday after Brian Kelly was fired, I sat here in this chair and I told you two things. Number one, that there had been an offer. As a matter of fact, I got it on my phone. I'll play it for you. I don't mind saying that there have been whispers of maybe attempting to exercise the for cause component of Brian Kelly's contract, which would nullify the buyout. I don't believe that would happen, but maybe that could be used as leverage to get him to negotiate a lesser number. Okay, so that was me on this show on that Monday. Told you that they had talked about exercising the for-cause clause. Didn't think they do it. Think it was just leverage. I'll get back to that in a second. This was the other thing I told you, because yesterday you saw the advocate talk about the settlement that was negotiated. I told you Brian Kelly didn't agree to a lesser number. I mean, here you go. Play this one for you. Would Brian Kelly accept a lesser... Oops, I hit the wrong button on my phone. Sorry. That's what happens when you don't pull the audio and you're playing it from your phone. Here you go. For his contract. I'm an idiot. A settlement. Would Brian Kelly accept a lesser amount for his contract? And that was presented, as I'm told, to Brian Kelly and his agent on Sunday. A lump sum settlement of his deal. Would you take a lump sum now, a lesser amount lump sum? And he declined. Okay. So that was the Monday after Brian Kelly was terminated, let go, or all that sort of, term it whatever you want now. I sat here and I told you they was offered a lump sum. He said no. We found out the numbers yesterday from the advocate, and also told you that they were considering the for cause. So this isn't retroactive. These are things I told you on this show the Monday after Brian Kelly was fired. Okay. So two things that I would let you know following up on that. Number one is I was able to find out today LSU's counter, or Brian Kelly's counter. So the way that went down with the negotiation, LSU offered Brian Kelly $25 million. The advocates reported this, by the way. LSU offered Brian Kelly $25 million. He declined. Kelly's representatives countered at $43 million. LSU declined and countered at $30 million. Brian Kelly declined. So they are far apart. Brian Kelly is open to a settlement. They are not close on that number, which has led us now to where we are. So the next question everyone's going to ask is, okay, well, what did he do that would justify the for-cause clause of the contract? I have been told three things. Now, two of them are personal, and I am not going to say those on air until they become part of the public record. Unless and until they become part of the public record, because in my opinion, it's unfounded, and at this point would be nothing more than rumor mongering. I'm not going to do it. But a lot of you have talked about it. You know what a lot of the rumors that have spread. At least one of them. The other one I don't think you know. The one that is very public that I've been told, that I don't mind sharing because it has been very public, has been the alleged mishandling of the Greg Brooks situation. There's a very real question that comes to mind now and to light, which is to say, that was 2 years ago. Could you fire someone for cause retroactively 2 years ago? There might be some legalese that they could go through in different ways they can manipulate lines of law and letters of the law. I don't know all that. But what I do know is LSU has not formally fired Brian Kelly. Scott Woodward apparently did not have the authority to do so. They're continuing to pay Brian Kelly. On Monday, the two sides were having conversations. LSU clearly floated, or LSU representative floated the idea of a for-cause firing. That spawned the action to file the lawsuit for $54 million. Now, there's a couple of other things that are interesting. Even if Brian Kelly wins that lawsuit, let's say hypothetically that lawsuit goes to trial and Brian Kelly wins a $54 million judgment against the Board of Supervisors, which is a representative of the state. For Brian Kelly to get that money, as I understand it through many conversations I had today with legislators, members of the Appropriations Committee, members of the Board of Regents. I spent from about 7:45 this morning until 1:30 this afternoon doing nothing but this story. And I had a lot of conversations. What would likely happen is Brian Kelly would have to go through appropriations, meaning he would have to find a legislator who would put his $54 million into an appropriations bill. He would have to pass the Appropriations Committee, pass the House, pass the Senate, go to the governor's desk. The governor would have to sign off on it, and the governor has line item veto power in the appropriations bill. So basically, Jeff Landry would have to say, okay, we'll pay you $54 million. So bottom line, Ice Cube's chance in hell he ever sees a dollar of that judgment from the state of Louisiana. And there are tens of millions of dollars in unpaid judgments against the state that have yet to go through appropriations. So that's not going to be a realistic path for Brian Kelly. So what are we doing? I'm going to give you my opinion. Okay? This is my opinion rooted in a lot of a lot of information of what's happened, talking to a lot of the particulars, okay? And you can choose to believe that I'm talking to particulars or not. At this point, if you don't get it, that's on you, not me. You make up your mind. I think LSU floated the idea for cause for the exact reason I told you the Monday after Kelly was initially fired. They're trying to strong-arm Brian Kelly into negotiating a lesser number so as not to go through the very public airing of laundry. Because if they start airing the for-cause reasons, there could be public embarrassment, a lot of other things. Thinking, okay, maybe they'll accept our terms, they'll be more willing to negotiate a lesser number. Brian Kelly said, okay, I'll play this game of chicken. Go ahead, air it. We're filing a $54 million lawsuit against you. You're giving me every single dollar I'm owed. I think you have both playing a game of leverage and a high-stakes game of chicken, and neither one's blinking right now. And they're doing this in the public, which continues to reflect negatively on LSU, LSU athletics, Brian Kelly, Scott Woodward, the board, everybody. I think Jeff Landry. Nobody comes through this looking good. Nobody. And my concern, as I'm sure it is for many of you, is that this is going to negatively affect the coaching search. Now, I have had conversations with folks at LSU, very closely associated with the coaching search, and they assure me that in conversations with agents and the people they're targeting and talking to, that the concern isn't there, and that they knew that this was a possibility, and so they were in front of it and started communicating that in advance to their potential targets. Okay, you can have as much open communication as you want, but ultimately, you're going to be sitting down at a table with an agent trying to negotiate a contract with that agent's client, and you're going to come to this point, and they're going to say, why in the world will we believe this contract is worth the paper it's written on when you just fired that coach and you wouldn't pay him his buyout? It's the thing I told you the day Brian Kelly was fired. The world is watching, and how you handle Brian Kelly's buyout is going to be a reflection on you and your ability to sign future deals. And I get it. I hate the contract, sucks, all that sort of stuff. You sign the man to the contract. You owe that man that money. And everybody's watching how you handle this. And it also goes back to the point we've made over and over again. LSU is not a poverty program, but it is not oil money rich. Texas A&M could have stroked that check for Jimbo Fisher 100 times over and never batted an eye. LSU, $54 million for Brian Kelly. We've got the governor involved. We've got board members involved. We got $54 million lawsuits. We've got for-cause claims. I mean, it's all to pinch pennies and to save money, because LSU is not the type of program that can easily and readily afford to stroke a $54 million check to make for a coach not to work. It's why this is where it is. And my concern is that it will affect LSU's ability to hire the next coach. Now, look, there's a batch of coaches in this pool that will take this job no matter what. Frank Wilson will take this job no matter what. Kelvin Shepard, he'll come one day. He's going to take this job no matter what. John Summerall may have options, and he may not take this job no matter what because he's got options. But you have your heart set on Lane Kiffin? You want to go land one of the big fish? They may look at this and go, not so sure I like that. And that could negatively affect your ability to hire the next coach. So this is far from over. I don't think this Brian Kelly lawsuit, buyout, all this, I don't think this fully goes into the shadows until LSU hires a new coach. I think it's also very clear now that there was a horribly erroneous report that the buyout had been finalized. Another report that someone had committed to pay the lion's share of it. Wrong. Look for good information. Anyway. Another ugly day with all this stuff. Can't come to an end soon enough. Pay that man his money. Get on with it. Pay that man his money. Get on with it. Hire a new coach and move this program forward. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.